I
I,
don't,
I would
I don't,
just say, go ahead, Joel.
no, I was going to say, I don't have any questions. Can, I mean, first of all, the planning commission did ask the college whether they would accept that added language. The college said no. So I just want to straighten that part out. But also, I will, confirm, and it's in the minutes, that I did advise the planning commission when asked whether this was permissible by the college, that I had no basis why it would be permissible. And I pointed out that if the college wanted to knock the buildings down that night, there is absolutely nothing in our ordinance that would prevent them from doing so. So to add the condition would not, that there was no basis. I do want to say that I think that Mr. Elliott's desire was aspirational, that he thought it would be good to have, but ultimately, since it's been objected to, I gave the opinion then, and I would reiterate that opinion tonight. There is no legal basis to add that language to the condition. There are 40 conditions, including condition 35, without that language, all of which is there to protect the proper development in accordance with our ordinances. And so that's my comments concerning the college's presentation. The rest of this is for any questions that city council members would have.
I sat in on that meeting as I do on most meetings, and I could tell you that my concern as a person who has appeared before planning commissions in many different municipalities on behalf of developers, my concern has always been that our planning commission goes beyond what is allowed by MPC. I hear their sincerity, their desire to make sure it's the best for the city, but that's not what they're there for. They're there to evaluate the land development plan based on our SALDO. And I hear questions constantly, especially from one member, that has nothing to do with it. I mean, I can remember, again, as I said before, when Daddy's place, well, what kind of beer are you going to sell? You can't ask those questions. That's not what you're looking at. Well, do you plan on making money? You can't ask that question. And I know that one person says, I'm trained to just ask a multitude of questions and I got to know what's going on. That's not what I think this is a perfect example. I heard Joel applying to them and they just decided they weren't going to listen to the legal opinion. I would definitely be in favor of offering this appeal, as much as I hate going against our planning commission. I think collectively they try to do a really good job. I heard the yelling and screaming between two members that the chairman tried to stop, but initially when he first proposed his additional language, he didn't even get a second. And then it just came up and people started voting for it, and it was a 4-3 vote. I really believe from day one, from the very beginning of the meeting, when one person asked, well, how does COVID affect this development? It's immaterial. The municipal planning code gives a person a 5-year lapse that they can go before the planning commission and they don't have to do anything for 5 years. Fortunately, I think their aspirational concerns were good. They don't want properties destroyed. And then just as one person said, we have a big hole there with a fence around it for 40 years. Well, first of all, that's not allowed. Our demolition permit requires grading and seeding to prevent soil erosion and stormwater control. Those things can't occur. But yet, I just want city council to understand that their role is very important, but it's spelled out accordingly, as I heard Stephen Narowski last night give to the zoning hearing board, or Monday night rather. You can't even go and look at the site. You're a quasi-judicial board, the zoning board. You can only base your decision on the evidence that's presented. And in this case, the planning commission has to go by what's legal. And I think they unfortunately overstepped their bounds a little bit. Again, for the right reasons. Obviously, nobody wants to see a neighborhood destroyed and nothing put in its place. But that has not been. We see what the college has done on High and Cattell Street. There was an ugly lot there on that neighborhood for many years since Groovy's gas station was torn down. And now it's a beautiful park. And I'm sure it cost them quite a bit of money to beautify what is considered now an entrance to not only their campus, but it's an entrance to that neighborhood. So I've seen my concern, and I know people say, well, I hear all the rumors about Sal's support of the college, but let me tell you something. They've approved plans without ever asking a question about demolition. Ari Schwartz, for some reason, Dutchtown Commons, everybody loves that project. He tore down buildings on the 600 block of North Ames Street. We have the 13th and Wood Avenue that I talk about all the time. They've not only allowed the demolition, but they've approved the putting all the lots together, a reverse subdivision. And what do they think that developer is going to do? Put 6 townhouses on it? No, he's going to put a big project on it because he now has a large piece of land. They can ask the right questions, and Joel tried to direct them. And I appreciate what Joel was trying to do that night. And it was, I think, Chot's real desire to be more aspirational than anything, and making sure for the community that we don't have demolition without at least grading and seeding. And that has to be required anyway. But I think what Joel said that night is that college can do that anytime they want. There's nothing on College Hill that will stop someone right now from tearing down buildings and leaving them vacant. I believe that one member in a previous meeting, I think it was Commissioner Shipman, said, I can buy the house next door to me if I want a bigger yard and tear it down and just have a bigger yard. There's nothing that's going to stop demolition. So I would propose, and if no one else introduces it, I would gladly introduce the adjudication that I believe that the college in this case, and I don't know why our planning commission, there's at least 3 members that are constantly asking questions of the college that they don't ask of any other developer. And that's just not fair. That's not fair. It's not the interpretation of the rules and regulations that are outlined in the municipal planning code that they need to follow.
If I may get
Mayor,
this,
I have a comment.
excuse
Mayor?
me,
Okay, hold on, Joel.
Excuse me, Joel,
has
can
a-
I?
if I can do this in the proper procedure, at this point in time, the only thing that should be happening are questions addressed to the college. The college, then if there are any members of the planning commission that's in the audience that want to ask questions or present anything, they can, but then the college, the appropriate procedure would be the college, if they want to have any further comments, they can comment and close. And then it would be appropriate for someone to make a motion, have it seconded, have discussion, and then have a vote.
Okay.
Joe,
Councilman
before
O'Connell has do you have a question for Lafayette
Okay.
College?
I make a, yes, I have a, yes, I realize there's no legal justification for denying this appeal. I understand that Joel was explained that very well. But actually, all the planning commission really asked for was a schedule of demolition for the buildings on Clinton Terrace. And I just think that even though the college is not required to provide that in the spirit of cooperation and good neighborliness, I just think they should have provided it. That's really all the planning commission was asking for. I know the meeting got very contentious. I understand that. But in the end, that's really all they wanted to know. That's really all the planning commission.
Council member, why haven't they asked anyone else? Why have they ever asked that question before?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm just talking about this meeting and this project.
I believe the
But,
college was offering, and I'll ask the college themselves, but I'll ask a question, Mr. Scheer. The college was basically saying, the question first came up from Commissioner Carr. The very first question was, well, what do you expect COVID to have on impact? It's a legitimate question by you or me as an elected official because we are interested in the city, but he is solely looking at the land development plan, and they agree to all 40 conditions, and they don't need a variance. They have it by right. I agree that he could have asked that question, but not in his role as a planning commissioner. And that just started the whole ball rolling, and some of the questions were inappropriate. But I understand that the college, I personally hope the college takes these vacant buildings down as quickly as possible. I'd rather see grassy lawn there than empty vacant buildings that are just subjected to vandalism and blight. So I guess that's my question to the college. I don't want you to feel slighted by some members. It's a minority of members on the planning commission about your offer to the college, that college it gives to the city. I'm very excited when things are being done, like the emergency squad given space at the Reineck Rope Company, the Pennsylvania Water Rescue being housed down at the Lehigh Drive facility. I think the college is doing what they can. But maybe, George, can you tell me, does the college have anything specific in addition to what you said? I read your brief, your 14-page brief. I thought it was excellent. Even the pictures in the back. Is there anything Mr. O'Connell's asking, that you could volunteer that? I think because you're appealing it, you don't want to volunteer, but is there something as a schedule that you can give us tonight that you couldn't give us a month ago to the planning commission?
Well, I'm going to say a couple of things and then maybe see if anyone else on my team wants to chime in. But first of all, what is a demolition schedule? It's not defined in your code. That condition itself is vague. It's ambiguous. Is there an example of a schedule? Well, of course there's not, because you haven't imposed it on anyone else. How would anything that we provide, which remember said that the condition is shall provide, how will we know what the standard is for whether or not it is approved or not when there's no objective condition?
That's a good point.
In your ordinance? We don't know what it is. What if we propose the schedule and it's rejected? Do we not have preliminary plan approval any longer? We've met every single part of the code, every single condition that your engineer has suggested we agree to. We even did agree, when asked, to a couple of tweaks. But what would this look like? We've never seen it before. What if it's rejected? We don't get, is our preliminary plan gone? Is our protection with regard to that gone? I don't know what that means. We know as land use lawyers that is the brass ring in land development when you get preliminary plan approval. This uncertainty is not acceptable and it makes no sense under the circumstances. What if also we agree to a schedule? We submit a schedule, and then I might have said this during the planning commission meeting. What if COVID-21 hits? We postpone. Are we out of compliance? Is our preliminary plan now void in some way? This is what happens when you try to impose conditions that are not objective. It's that running down those rabbit holes makes no sense. And it's not something any developer in America would ever want to have imposed on them.
If I may, and also to keep the adjudication, to keep this hearing in focus. And this is really, in a way, echoing what Mr. Krajewlik is saying. I believe what the college is ultimately looking for, since there would be, in their argument, in which I do not have any legal basis to disagree, the right to compel this schedule. I believe the appropriate thing is for the council members to ask questions if they have any, see if there's any planning commission members who wish to say anything, and if not, and the college wishes to close and somebody make the motion for an adjudication, vote on it, and then when that is over, when the college has its preliminary conditional approval with the 40 original conditions with the two modified ones, when that is all over, there would be nothing wrong with the city sending a nice letter over to Roger and ask, by the way, can you enlighten us as to what your plans are in the next couple of years? Not mandatory. It's just a way, it's another way to deal with it. In other words, I'd like to separate that issue, which is which was the aspirational goal, I believe, of Mr. Elliott, which and I could define types of ideas that I think he had in mind that would not be mandatory. However, George is absolutely correct. The way this is written, it subjects the college to all kinds of potential pitfalls and dangers, which is why this appeal is before City Council tonight. And I think those other questions can be presented to the college, but in a format where it's all on a voluntary basis.
I'd just like to say, George, thank you. You answered my question for me. Primarily, when I was going through the packet and reading through everything, the one thing that kept striking back at me, does it fit our codes? And I believe Stephen pointed that out, that is nothing in our codes. And Joel said the same thing this evening, that stop you from doing what you're doing. And so therefore, that's what I was looking for. And I agree with our solicitor at this time that there's really nothing legally bounds us to do anything different than what is already in place.
Thank you, Councilman Brown.
Any other council members have a question?
All right.
Dr. Ruggles?
Hey, Joel, actually, this is a question for Joel. Is there anything in that memorandum of law that you disagree with?
No,
Okay. I might say that I thought it was very well written. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all of the technicalities there, but I think it was very well written and that your case was spelled out very well. So I just wanted to make sure that our solicitor has covered that base and made sure that everything in there was in fact correct.
I would have just done the condensed version. It would have been a page and a half to reach the same conclusion. But it was very thorough, and I do appreciate having this available for me and for future use.
Thank you, Councilman Ruggles. And thank you, Joel.
I think that one thing that would really convinces me is that we have a commissioner who said that this isn't it's just a signal, it's not a requirement. And I think that sums up your case completely. So if there are no other questions for our members from the Lafayette, I'll close the hearing, Councilman O'Connell. And
First, could we check and make sure there are no commissioners that are?
I see none on the list.
Okay, because
I see the list of attendees. I don't see any of the planning commission members currently available.
Okay. Then I think it would be appropriate if the college wishes to close, it can.
George, the floor is yours.
Does the
Thank you.
college have any final, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think we've said everything that needs to be said at this point. And I think there have been some good comments from the various council members. And I hope we answered the questions, as I think your solicitor pointed out tonight. And it's very clear, this is not a legislative function. This is a judicial function tonight. You have the evidence, you have the documents, you have the law, you have the facts. I think we've made it clear as to why this piece of the additional condition must be stricken, and we'd ask that that be done tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay.
If there are no further comments, then we can. Roger?
Yeah. I just
Roger?
wanted to, I'm sorry, I just wanted to point out that I believe that I should abstain from any vote on this. And same reasons that I did for the original zoning issues. So I will be abstaining It's my understanding, though, that if there is a tie, I do vote. So,
I think probably it's just as well to consider yourself recusing yourself from voting, and instead of abstaining. And then if there is a
Okay.
tie, based on Mr. Murphy's ruling, which it was based on what he found, but rather incomprehensible that a person who wishes to recuse themselves because of a possible I'm sure this is only appearance of conflict that you're avoiding as a paid employee of the college, that you are allowed to vote if there was a tie. It's incomprehensible to me, but that sounds fine. I mean, the next step would be, I believe, for someone to make a motion. And as I said, after that, if it's seconded, there should be discussion and then a call of the question.
I think Leslie had another comment to make. Did you, Leslie?
I just wanted to say thank you very much on behalf of the college. Thanks.
Okay.
Council.
All right, then if there's no further discussion, I'll close this hearing. And we can take, I guess we would take the vote then. Is that correct, Joel?
Yeah, it's not even a matter of, it's not a hearing. So we're just ready to move on to the next stage in the adjudication.
Okay.
So the taking of testimony is closed, and now it's up for you as the panel of jurists to decide how you wish to, whether you wish to sustain the appeal. And if you do, you already have in front of you a proposed adjudication that gives essentially findings of fact and conclusions. And if that's what you introduce, I would suggest you go to the now therefore clause as the action that you're taking and agreeing to then have this adjudication executed as the action of the city council.
Okay, I'll take the meeting back over. As chairperson of the council, I'll entertain any motion that anybody would like to make as far as the adjudication.
I'll move that.
It's been moved by Mr. Councilmember Ettinger.
Seconded.
It's seconded by Councilmember Volcano. Discussion.
Just for the record, since the public would not even know exactly what you're voting on, the conclusion in that adjudication says that it is the determination of city council that the appeal filed by Lafayette College is sustained, and that the preliminary subdivision and land development plan approval granted by the Eastern Planning Commission at its August 5, 2020 meeting for the Lafayette College McCartney Street Housing and Wellness Center project is modified to strike the added language in condition number 35 in the review letter prepared by T&M Associates, such that the condition number 35 shall read, the existing feature and demolition plan shall be revised to clarify that the building located at 517 Clinton Terrace is to be relocated. Other than the modification of paragraph 35, the approval as conditioned is affirmed as drafted. That would be what you're voting on.
Thank you, Mr. Sheeran. We also had your opinion, which I did share with the council. Further discussion from members of council. We're ready for a call to question. Madam Clerk, please call the question on the vote.
Dr. Ruggles.
stay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. My apologies. Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Thank you to the people who are here from Lafayette. It has been passed 7-0. And thank you, members of council, for your time. At this point, we're going to go into public comment. Go ahead, Mr.
6-0.
Oh, that's right. 6 zeros with 1 abstention. Sorry, Dr. Ruggles. We now have public comment on agenda items only by anyone in the press.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George,
Thank
Roger, and
Thank you.
Andy, and oh, sure, it's already off. Anybody from the public that would like to address City Council on an agenda item only, please raise your hand, and we'll bring you into the panel for opening up your microphone. I see no one that has their hand raised. There will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting to talk about anything relating to the city of Easton, and we'll ask again. At this time, Madam Clerk, the consent agenda, please.
Okay, on the consent agenda, we had bill number 21, which would repeal chapter 79, the Human Relations Commission Discrimination Code, and that was introduced by Mr. Milan. We also have
Sorry.
on the consent, hon. We also have bill number 23, which was amending chapter 45, Departments of the Code of the City of Easton, and that was introduced by Mr. Milan as well. We have bill number 24, which would be establishing a liquor license transfers and economic development liquor license ordinance, and that was introduced by Mrs. Volcano. And then we have 7 certificates of appropriateness. The first one is for 109 North 2nd Street, 115-119 Northampton Street, 121-127 Northampton Street, 35 South 6th Street, 50 South 6th Street, 147 Northampton Street, and 15 South 2nd Street.
So we want to move the consent agenda.
Move.
I'll
Moved by
move the
Brown,
consent
seconded by
agenda.
O'Connell. Discussion?
Was it?
Go ahead, Dr. Ruggles.
No, I'm just, the second motion, the second ordinance that was introduced by Peter, that was brought in parallel to another one that was removed. Do we still need that? Or I don't know if that was an intent to have those together or separate, or I'm not sure, but it was basically at the same time, and the one was not moved forward.
I would say I was allowing it to go through with the consent agenda. I was going to pull it off. I think it should, it doesn't change anything because by charter, the mayor does review the performance of the city administrator. So I don't have a problem with it staying in. I think it's fine. I would rather it say, whomever the mayor may be, that the review is done. I would add the 3 words by the mayor, but I think the way it says, it would refer back to the charter, which clearly states that the city administrator reports to the mayor.
Yeah, and I, by the way, looked at that too, and thought that this could be consistent with what city council can do, suggesting that there be such a review, but ultimately that review has to be within the administration, not by council.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye. There are no reports to be received by council, so let's go right on to committee reports. Finance Committee, Vice Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several things this evening. I have bill number 25, which I will be amending. Also have a resolution for the MMO, and that's the managing pension plan, and also the PMRS pension plan. And council did meet, or finance committee did meet last night. And Mark discussed the August year to date finances and provided some highlights of the expenses and revenue. Dr. Ruggles also had several questions last night about the results of the revised budget, and Mark is going to be following up on that to give us some answers that was asked last night. So that's all I have until we come to Bill 25, Mayor. Until such time, I will hold the changes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Economic Development Committee, Councilmember Volcano.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening I have Bill number 3, resolution number 3 under new business. And that is amending the 2017 and 18 Community Development Block Grant Program budget to reprogram inactive projects totaling $250,810 to meet the timeliness requirements of HUD for expending CDBG funds. And the only other thing I'd like to do is announce again that tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will be convening down at the mill or the Black Diamond property on the corner of West Lincoln and Storm Streets to break the ground. Hallelujah, hallelujah. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Hallelujah is right. Thank you, Councilmember Volcano. Planning and Code Committee, Councilmember O'Connell.
Mayor, just to repeat, Lafayette's appeal regarding phase 2 of their project has been sustained by council.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilman O'Connell. Public Safety, Councilman Ruggles.
Thank you. I just wanted to report, there was a article in Lehigh Valley Live on our concept of putting in historical markers. And so far I've had about 7 people who have expressed a lot of interest in helping out in multiple ways. And that's encouraging because personally, I'd like to see this as a community-driven thing and project. And it appears as though the community is starting to fall in behind it. So it sounds very good. And I just wanted to give Councilman Brown and Councilwoman Volcano a heads up that I'll probably be calling another meeting very shortly.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Public Works Committee, Councilmember Eddinger.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Works Committee met last night with Director Dave Hopkins, and we went over several items, and there'll be subsequent legislation proposed tonight to adopt the EPA guidelines that pertain to pre-treatment standards. I also have 3 resolutions. The first one involving a 3-year contract with Schrin to landfill our solid waste. The second is a contract with Barton Lawson for design of structural repairs at the 500 complex. And lastly, there's a resolution to allow the Department of Public Works to apply for a $900,000 grant from the Department of Economic Development Multimodal Transportation Fund, which we're then going to use to try to get a network of bicycle paths from the West Ward down to the riverfront. And those will be moved tonight. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Eddinger. Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan.
I have no report.
No report. Reporter Solicitor, Mr. Scheer.
Yeah, thank you. You'll have a vote, a return to the vote later in the meeting dealing with that salary and wage amendment resolution and for the assistant lab supervisor. And there was a discussion at the last meeting. I did distribute, at least to the mayor, I don't know if it was circulated to everybody. Okay, an opinion that in my view, this does not, this one-time increase is what was contemplated in section 114.6 of our code that allows for a one increase over the course of the year. And I did that based on the reading of the entire language in 114.6 that contemplates the increase. If there wasn't going to be any increases allowed up to a maximum, that's right, 114.6 includes a maximum. If there weren't going to be any increases allowed, it would should have just read that once salaries have been set for the position, there can be no increases. So I think there was contemplated that there could be this type of increase. I also do think that whenever anyone points out, any kind of ambiguity or question, it's not a bad idea to look at it all and see if there is anything that can be clarified and read together. We got to be really careful here too, because our CBAs provide all kinds of incentives and different increases. So if the administration committee has the time and opportunity to take a look at that whole section 114, there may be suggestions that could be made in the future to make it clearer for everyone.
I think I agree.
And so other than that, and obviously some time spent on the preliminarily in Lafayette College thing, I have nothing else to report.
Mr. Campos, City Administrator.
Mayor, just two quick items to update council. One of them I touched on last night. The first, as everyone knows, that the charter requires that the city administrator present a budget to the mayor, at which point then the mayor has 30 days to present a budget to council. I do want to let everyone know that the budget has been presented to the mayor, and he will accordingly be presenting that budget on the 1st of October, I believe. I think he set the schedule already. The second item, I wanted to update on the negotiations. We have 2 union contracts, the FOP and also IAFF, the fire department union group. As a matter of protocol due to Act 111, both unions have filed for arbitration or for impasse. It's really an administrative move. We are continuing to meet together probably through the end of the year or until we've come to a hard consensus that we truly are at an impasse. September 12th is the deadline for filing for demanding for the impasse. So they accordingly filed and the administration rebutted. But I do want to let everyone know that we are continuing to meet. We're meeting this week with the fire union. Next week, we'll continue our meetings with the police union. Thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Mayor's report. I'll just give City Council an update on the business recovery plan. There is a meeting, a Zoom meeting on Friday morning at 8 o'clock. If you'd like to attend, just send me an email. We are inviting all the businesses in Easton, retailers, service-oriented, and restaurants to come to a meeting to see how we can help the retailers. We have some ideas. We've been talking to Main Street, and we have some ideas, but we want to run that by the retailers to see if there's interest and what we can do to increase their holiday sales. We know that many of them are struggling. Since the COVID-19 has really assisted the big box stores more than little small business, locally owned small businesses. We would like to do something that's going to encourage people to come downtown and shop. So that meeting is on Friday. I'll report back to City Council probably in my budget address on October 1st, which is next Thursday at 6 o'clock. Also, you may hear rumors, which are not true, but you know how rumors go, that we're trying to close down. In this case, you heard last City Council meeting, people from the neighborhood in Black and Blue. You've gotten emails from some of them. You've gotten phone calls. You've gotten conversations here right on City Council meetings. That is not true. But I can tell you that they are on their final warning. They're not allowed any more outdoor music. This weekend, last weekend, they were given a cease and desist of any music that's amplified, and they agreed to do that. This Friday night, and Saturday night, they not only had actively engaged orchestra bands with drums and amplification, they actually, Friday night's band, they actually put on their Facebook page and live streamed it. We understand that they're an integral part of our West Ward neighborhood. The old neighborhood pubs are really important to people in that neighborhood, but they have to comply with all the other things that we've asked other permittees to do. And so we're hoping they comply this time. And they have been warned that if they continue to do what they've been doing in the past, we will take away the Jersey walls and anything that's in the public right of way. that is the last thing we want to do. I mean, that we understand the struggle of all these small businesses. And I've been talking to all of them, and I know that I've talked to several people in that neighborhood who are supporting them. But we do have letters and phone calls and emails from people who aren't. So we just want to make sure that by 10 o'clock, they obey the law, the rules and regulations of the city, and they try to reduce their amplification. And now they didn't do it, so now they're down to nothing. So the business recovery plan has worked well, but the other issue we're having, very frankly, is open flames underneath tents. We have many restaurants who bought fire retardant or flame resistant fire resistant tents. They paid a premium to get that, but yet our fire code does not allow open flames underneath a tent. So we're trying to work through that to come up with some possible help for them, but you may be hearing from some of them as well. Secondly, we're taking into account the CDC's new guidelines about trick or treat. We did cancel, not we didn't, but the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce canceled the Halloween parade. And we said that we would continue to do trick or treat. CDC came out with guidelines yesterday to cancel trick or treat or have it self-service with individually wrapped candy. Personally, I don't understand that all these kids putting their hands in there. They're not just picking out one piece of candy. They're picking out, they're rifling through the basket or the box. So we're still looking at that. But right now, all three cities have trick or treat is still on, as well as Bath and Nazareth. But I look at the other three cities. It's strictly voluntary. So if you want to give out candy, you can. If you want to go trick or treating, you can. It's strictly voluntary. I don't think there'll be as much participation as other years. I think a lot of the senior citizens won't open their door because they're afraid to get sick. I certainly understand that, but we didn't want to just cancel everything. And which brings us to the last thing. I didn't mention the budget. The last item is the concert this weekend downtown. Again, is meant to draw people downtown. They have to be masked and socially distanced, but some people just won't wear a mask. I don't get it, but they do. So we're very concerned about social distancing. We'll have people there to remind them to social distance. The concert is Dee Roscioli, who is a well-known Broadway actress who starred as Cher in the Broadway hit Cher, who had the 7-year, it said 3.5 year, but a 7-year run in Wicked as the lead in Wicked, and played Eva Peron in Evita at DeSales University's, actually Shakespeare's Festival, Lehigh Valley Shakespeare Festival, which is held at DeSales Theater, and also appeared at the State Theater with the Pennsylvania Symphony as just for vocals. So we're looking forward to that. City Council is aware of it. We do have 4 sponsors for that, which was very good. It was Cressler Wolf and Miller, Brown Dobb Partnership Foundation, Family Foundation, the R Squared, which is Robert Rebko, one of our consultant to our IT department, and also Dieter Brothers Oil and Heat. So look forward to that on Saturday night. I also will announce that November, Lewis and I met today. We believe that PennDOT will be ready for presentations to the public of the traffic circle. Our traffic circle, is I still have an 11th commandment that says, thou shalt not touch the circle, but PennDOT's going to touch it. So we've had some good input from the public before when we had the meeting at City Council and the presentation of all the plans. They've whittled it down to 2, and we're going to share that in the next couple of weeks with GEDP and Main Street and the farmers market people to try to ascertain their preference for one or the other. And then we'll be ready by the first week in November, or first meeting in November, to present public hearings to get the public's input, because obviously this is a PennDOT date of is May 1st, 2021. We thought COVID was going to push it to 2022. We found out that they're not, and they're actually already posted for letting the contract on May 21st. So we're excited to get it done. It needs a great the circle hasn't gotten an uplift in a long time. We're looking forward to it. So we'll obviously want City Council's input on that, and the public, especially the public, as we start to make the circle itself more park-like and the traffic pattern easier for the average person to understand, because I'm not happy about the blinking lights. I don't think anyone's happy about the blinking lights, but we're looking at, whatever the public wants, whatever we think will be best, and not necessarily what the engineers think will be best. So any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If not, we'll move on. There is no correspondence. Madam Clerk, let's go right on to unfinished business.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay, yeah, bill number 25 that was introduced by Mr. Brown tonight, and that would be to incur or to get a bond in the amount of $55,500,000.
I'd like to amend that bill. And I'd like to amend Bill 25, which is the general obligation note under unfinished business. The change involves removing 2 sentences from page 5 and page 6 and referring the maturity of the notes. This change could be reviewed, has been reviewed rather, by our solicitor and also our bond counsel. And if we do have Mrs. Shearer still here, that there's any questions at that time. Here now, I'd like it to read as follows. The maturity of the note does not extend beyond the maturity of the refunded bond on page 5.
Want that taken out?
I want that added. It's already taken out.
No, I think, Councilman, that's the language that's supposed to be excised from the original note.
Correct. That's incorrect then. And then the other one on page 6.
And Mark Lisinicki is on this, and he has worked on this the most. So if I'm,
Mark?
Please confirm that that's what we're doing. We're eliminating 2 very short sentences that refer to maturity date.
That is correct, Mr. Shearer.
Yep. And the other one is same related, maturity notes. So we're going to be doing that one also. And that states that maturity notes related to the refinance program will not extend the bond beyond the final maturity of the represented of the refunded bonds, and such as will not extend the maturity which could not have been included in respect of the refunded bond on page 6. You'll find that.
That's also being removed.
Correct.
Okay.
There's a motion by Mr. Brown. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second by Dr. Ruggles. Discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
No.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Well, I want to thank council for their support of this advice.
Mayor.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but now that was to vote for the amendment. Now we have to
Sorry.
vote on the amendment 1. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. So I need a motion to approve the amended Bill 25.
Motion.
Second.
Councilmember
Second.
Brown and Volcano.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
No.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Again, I'd like to thank the members of council that voted in favor of this, supporting administration's recommendation based on our financial advisors. The one that voted against it, I want to know how they're going to come up with the $2.3 million at the end of the year to pay our debt service. No one, as I said in our finance meeting, this is contrary to what I'd like to do, but the fact of the matter is we've gotten no support, no help to close our $5.5 million revenue gap. We've done it all on our own. And that 2.3, is it, Mark? the debt service payment.
2.6.
2.6, I was right. Okay, $2.6 million debt service saves us this year, which is half of our gap. And the other half was met by the various furloughs and cutbacks that we made. So this is a real difficult time. I have 7 days to present my budget, and I will tell you that it is ugly. All right, it is absolutely ugly. I'm not sleeping at night because it's our staff, specifically our directors and Mr. Campos. We are just working every day to try to make that budget as painless as we can. And for 13 years, we've held 0 real estate tax increases, 0 sewer, 0 trash. And you heard last night that our mandatory municipal obligation for pension is going up $1 million next year. When we took office in 2008, it was 900,000, and now it's over 6 million. We also heard that trash, because we haven't bid trash in 7 years. We had a great contract 7 years ago when Mr. Hopkins recommended a 3-part contract, and those contracts are up, and we expect an increase in trash costs will be $1 million. So there's $2 million before we even start talking about revenue going down, because I don't know how long COVID's going to be. I talked with Shelley Brown, as I told you last night. Most of her shows that she thought she could open in January are being pushed back some as much as 6 months. It's going to be a tough year, especially the first and second quarter of the year. So I told Lewis and Mark, I'm heading out to the casino, not to gamble because I'm not a gambler, but I'd like to see how busy they are, because we need to find out. We know that Crayola is open, but they're not that busy. They're also in the twilight of their year. This is the summertime, June, July, and August is when the city makes the most revenue on amusement tax and parking by families. Most of the time now, the kids are in school. They're not coming. Weekends have been okay, but they're not gangbusters. So we look at a lot of things when we look at our budgetary numbers. And next Thursday at 6 o'clock, I'll probably be making amendments to it. And as I told you last night in our finance committee meeting, this is being presented with a whole quarter of 2020 left. So we have numbers coming in that hopefully they go beyond our projection, but we're not sure of that. I also want to let you know that we're working real hard. We worked real hard last year, as you know, and we're working real hard this year because we're hearing that there may be a lot of retirements in our police and fire departments. And we also know that there's a lot, right now we have a large number of injured police and fire, and they're out creating overtime for the city. And last year we got hit, as you know, the Civil Service Board presents us with a list. They couldn't present us with a list because they didn't have their tests. We ran $1.3 million in overtime for firefighters. And that really hurt our budget. So we expect to have the audit for you. Look, Mr. Campos, will we have that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks at the next meeting?
It's going to be around that time frame, Mayor. I'll know a little bit more by the end of this week.
Okay, so we had to make up that money in some place, and I think without a doubt, after 13 years of surpluses, I think we will show a deficit for last year. Hopefully, it's not the 1.3 million that we spent on firefighting because we cut back in other areas. So the budget's a very fluid budget. We look at it every day. The finances right now, some of them are good, some of them aren't. We hear that the housing market's coming back. Even Stephen was okay. We checked Mr. Dr. Ruggles with that, with the BNIs, and he thinks that it's a hot market. But frankly, I am not sure. I don't know. But we have a long way to go before the end of the year. So hopefully that $100,000 will come in. Dr. Ruggles.
You had mentioned the audit, and as I recall, last year we had serious concerns on how late the audit was in, and it seems this year it's even later.
Yes.
I'm not sure of the date, but I mean, I think we need to have some explanation from our auditors as to why this is taking so long, because this is, I mean, I can't imagine that it would take, almost 9 months before we get our audit in. I mean, that's to me that's ridiculous. And I would like to see if Mr. Campos would approach our auditors or have the auditors come in or whatever it is. But we need to light a fire under them. I mean, This is, to me, this is unacceptable.
We don't disagree. We're hoping to bring the auditor in for the presentation to council so that he can hear the questions that we ask all the time, that they're actually also coming from council, not just the administration. We agree 100%.
Mayor, could you elaborate on your comment regarding the civil service and their inability to do what regarding the $1.3 million in overtime for the fire department? I'm a little confused on that.
Sure, we didn't have, we, as you know, we appointed 6 firefighters, 3 additional firefighters to help that, that deficit that we had in the overtime account. And we had trouble with the Civil Service Board in meeting. I'm sure that if Stephanie Weber was on, she could enlighten us more. But Louis, I recall having a hard time getting the Civil Service Board together to give us the test. For example, COVID stopped our testing of the police candidates, and they're doing the interviews last week and this week. We want to have them done before the academy starts in March, because we're going to have a number of openings there as well.
So how old's the list then?
We have a current fire list, and we have a new police list that will be done by the end of the year.
So the fire list it's good for 2 years though, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so I just want to clarify the comment regarding the Civil Service Board. The fire chief that was in position last year to manage the overtime, which he said he was going to, he didn't do that. So I'm not sure how we can lay blame on the Civil Service Board.
I'm not blaming blame on anybody. I'm blaming the fact that I'll put the blame right out where it's at. It's on the collective bargaining agreement. It says we must have 10 firefighters on at every shift. And we don't have that same language in the police. So sometimes we have more firefighters than we have police officers on the street.
No question. But again, that's an administrative function. So we can't really, unless you guys can bargain it out, then we're stuck with it then. So.
You're absolutely right. We're stuck with it, but I don't know how, given the amount of time off that public employees have, you got to give them the right to take vacation, and if they're calling in sick, they're calling in sick. We only have 14 per shift. So as soon as 4 call off, the overtime, unfortunately, is for 24 hours. It's 3 times what it normally would be. One person takes a shift off, and we got to have somebody there for 24 hours at time and a half. We always try to bargain that out, but we're never successful. But you're absolutely right, Mr.
Also, the fire chief did choose not to implement part-timers last year too, for the record.
Right, that is correct. And we're trying to do that this time. Okay. And we may find out that was not a good suggestion, because they were also putting out rumors that we're going to hire anybody off the street, and that's not the case. By the time we're looking for people who are already certified, and those ads are going to be placed within the next week or two. That by the end of the year, we expect to have a handful of part-timers that can fill in these overtime gaps. You're absolutely right, Mr. Mullen. Anyone else? So we are on the resolutions, new business, Madam Clerk.
Actually, we're on the resolution of their unfinished business, which we pulled off the table last meeting.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. We're still on B, letter B of unfinished business.
Correct. And that was the salary and wage resolution for the Public Works Department, Bureau of Water Pollution Control. So that was tabled, so we have to bring that back to the table.
I'll move to take it off the table.
Taking it off.
Second it. Yeah, I second it.
Moved and seconded, take it off the table.
You're bringing it back to the table, right?
No, we're bringing it onto the agenda.
On the agenda, off the table.
Off the table.
Yeah, that's what I meant, back to the table. Okay. All right, so we have Mayor is making the motion to bring it back to the table. Roger seconding it. And then we just need the vote. Okay. Okay. Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
And I don't know what you did read into your microphone, but we hear you very loud and clear now.
I swear I didn't do a thing.
That's working.
I was afraid. Okay. Okay, so now that it's back, we have to take the vote to pass it. And that was introduced way back by Mr. Milan last meeting.
Well, it needs to be reintroduced tonight. Somebody has to make a motion and second it, right, Mr. Shearer?
Okay, so I have a resolution. Mr. Milan, are you going to make the motion?
I'll move it.
Okay,
Second.
Moved and seconded by Milan and Volcano.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
No.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, you can go right on to new business when you're ready.
Okay. We have bill number 23 that's being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, where we would be amending sections contained in chapter 475 sewers of the Code of the City of Easton.
So introduced.
And we have bill number 27 being introduced by Mayor Pianto, where we would be amending a section in chapter 435, property maintenance and housing standards.
So moved.
Introduced.
Introduced.
Yeah, new business, introduced.
That's okay. We have a resolution. being-
Actually, you know what? I don't want to introduce it. No, I can introduce it. It will be amended. The codes department has some recommendations for that language. And fire department.
So what do we?
I'm
what do
gonna,
we do?
I'm moving it. If the solicitor rules in 3 weeks that it's a major change, we'll have to reintroduce it.
Okay, so right now you introduced it.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Mrs. Volcano, where we would be reallocating 2017 and 2018 CDBG funds in the amount of $250,810.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second discussion.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano.
Aye.
Okay. We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger approving a 3-year contract with Schrin Landfill for the acceptance and disposal of solid waste.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, Ettinger and O'Connell. Dr. Ruggles, question, discussion?
Yes, item 14D in that document has something like the City Board of Supervisors will. And I don't know the Board of Supervisors that we have, so I think that needs to be changed to council.
That you'd have to check with Dave Hopkins.
No, it has to be changed. So we'll do that before I sign it. I will make that notation on the side, Mr. Shear, and initial it, and we'll have Greg Schrin initial it as well.
What section was that, Mr. Ruggles?
14D.
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 It's obviously a template that they use, and they like to change Board of Supervisors to council.
It is. Okay. On it. This is a vote to approve it, though. Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Pianto.
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger where it would approve $100 for the design of structural repairs at the city's maintenance building located in our Public Works complex at 500 Bush Hill Drive.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion. This is the main wall that is contiguous to the Bushkill Creek. And every time we have high waters, after the 2004, 5, and 6 floods, there was some floodway that was created on the lower level so that the water could go into the building. But obviously when the water rises, it's getting to the point where it needs to be corrected, or we're going to lose that building. We certainly don't want to lose the building. So that's the background.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which would authorize the Department of Public Works to apply for a grant in the amount of $900,000 from the Department of Community and Economic Development Multimodal Transportation Fund. And this would be used for the design and installation of bicycle lanes that will tie together sections of the West Ward and downtown.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would approve the 2021 minimum municipal obligations of the city for the city managed pension funds.
Move.
Is there a
Second.
second? There's moved and
Second.
seconded. Brown, Ruggles. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And then we have a last resolution being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would approve the city's 2021 minimum municipal obligation for the PMRS managed pension fund.
So move.
So a
Second.
second. Moved and seconded by Ruggles. Discussion. Roll call.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, anything else for council would like to bring forward? Before I open up for public comment, we're at the point in our meeting where we have public comment on anything concerning the city of Easton. Comments, questions, concerns. If you'd like to speak, address city council, just raise your hand on the Zoom meeting and we'll call on you. We'll let you into the panel. Okay, I don't see any hands being raised. Mr. Campos, where's the hand to be raised at? So we can tell them.
On the bottom.
I know.
It's at
Mine
the
doesn't
bottom.
have it, I guess because I'm a panelist.
Mayor, it's at the bottom. It's labeled fairly well.
Okay. I just don't have one because I'm on the panel.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't see any hands raised, so I'll have a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Moved it by Ruggles,
Second.
second by Volcano,
Second.
second by Volcano or O'Connell. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown?
He's off the screen.
Okay, Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a great night. Stay safe.
Good night, all.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
too, Mayor. See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Take
Good
care.
night, everyone. Thank
night.
you.
Night.